Today we are going to talk about grabbing the ball and running with it, even if it looks like a stinker, even if everybody else has left it on the field and has walked away, because it might actually be something really good. But first, let me tell you how I got to this topic today. So this weekend, I was reading an obituary. You probably think I'm kind of morbid because last week I talked about grief and now I'm talking about obits. Okay, but they're actually really interesting. It's the same reason people love the Biography channel, because you get to find out how the person got to be who they are. And I find that fascinating, especially those little details from like when they were kids. Like, did you know that Neil Armstrong used to build wind tunnels for his toy airplanes? I learned that in his obituary. Yeah, it's a little interesting fun fact. A lot of kids play with toy airplanes, paper airplanes, little wooden airplanes. Most kids do not build wind tunnels. And we know where Neil Armstrong ended up. The moon, right? You know that, right? Just checking. Okay. So somehow I managed to work myself into a job where I get to kind of build biographies and figure out people's biographies for their whole career. So it just kind of happened that way. But that is what I do. I get in there and I dig around and figure out all these little interesting, like maybe their childhood stories, some interesting career stories, like times when they left the ball on the field, things like that, and help them share that so they can have the career they want. So that's part of my, I guess, obsession with biographies and obituaries. So this weekend, I was reading the obituary of Senator Birch Bayh. He's a very influential senator. And so first of all, let me just start out by saying, thank you, Senator Bayh, for Title IX. That's why I've got my Women's March shirt on today, okay? Senator Bayh drafted this legislation and was a champion of it. And this legislation has completely changed things for us women, right? It gave us academic and athletic equality. Still working on that, but the world is a much better place because of it. So can we just give Senator Bayh a round of applause, please? Okay, good for you, because we appreciate it. I mean, would there be a WNBA if there hadn't been a Title IX, a women's professional basketball league? I kind of doubt it. So thank you, Senator Bayh. And he also, by the way, co-wrote the Equal Rights Amendment, which sadly did not pass. But he could see that coming. So that's why he drafted Title IX, because he either thought it was going to be really slow to pass, the ERA, or it wasn't going to pass at all, which is what happened. So he felt like Title IX was going to give us a fast track to equality. So I would call Senator Bayh a feminist. He's going to make my feminist list. That's F-E, capital M, capital A, capital N, I-S-T, a man who stands up for women. And this was in 1972. Things were a lot different then. It was a lot harder. So what I want to talk about, though, what really captured me in his bio, besides all of this great stuff that I've been saying, is how he grabbed opportunity when it didn't really look like much. So he started out on the Senate Judiciary Committee as a member of the Subcommittee on Constitutional Amendments. Kind of a snoozer, really. According to the LA Times obit, when the chair of this subcommittee died, nobody really wanted the job, and they almost closed it up, actually. But because it seemed like a ticket to obscurity, is what the obit said. But Bayh thought differently. He grabbed the job and even was willing to finance it out of his own Senate budget. Instead of obscurity, it led him to prominence. Except for the founding fathers, he is the only legislator to have drafted 2 constitutional amendments. And it would have been 3 if the ERA had passed. He's also the reason, because of these constitutional amendments, that we can vote at age 18, which is also the same age when we can go fight for our country. That wasn't true before him. He's also the reason that we have a clear and orderly succession in the executive branch. It's kind of hard to believe, but when President Kennedy was assassinated, President Johnson took over, vice president at the time. So that all made sense, right? We know that when the president dies, the vice president takes over. But until that time, nobody had ever thought, hey, how do we get a new vice president? Really, no one had thought of that. So, I mean, this was before like process improvement and total quality management and all those kind of things. It'd be hard to imagine today, but that was the case. So believe me, the country was really, really focused on this whole situation after the Kennedy assassination. Everybody was obsessed with everything that was happening, right? So there's Senator Bai on this really boring constitutional committee, and he ended up drafting the 25th Amendment, which tells us how we can get a new vice president. So good for him. And guess what? Then everybody knew who he was. So my point is, grabbing the ball that nobody wants can actually be a really good thing. I get you need to be strategic with your career. You can't just go chasing leprechauns and things like that. Like, you don't have an endless amount of time. But if the ball is on the field, you should seriously think about picking it up, even if everybody else is walking off. I had a client who did this, and it also led her to prominence. She was chosen for a role that was a little outside of her primary area. She was a CPA, and she was chosen for a compliance role. So kind of related, but not directly. She was developing guidelines and improving records management. Like a whole nother snoozer, right? I'm sure there's someone who loves that, but really for most of us, that would be like a major snoozer and a huge chore, right? Okay, so, but it gave her visibility. She had to work with people from all over the company, and every quarter, somebody on this committee she was on had to present to executive management. Shockingly, no one on the committee wanted to pick up that ball. Now, I just want to say, if there's an opportunity for you to present to executive management, pick up that ball. Like, you know that, right? You got to pick up that ball, because that is definitely an opportunity. But all her colleagues saw was more work, and she saw the opportunity. So she put in the extra work, and every quarter she went in and presented to executive management. And when all was said and done, the COO actually approached her, thanked her for doing a great job, and was said how impressed he was with her. And by the way, if you ever need anything, come to me, the COO. How about that? About a year later, she was promoted to a big job with a lot more visibility. Taking the ball, even though it looked like a stinker to a lot of people, paid off. Personally, I've taken a lot of gigs in my career, certainly as a consultant, that were kind of small and maybe not that great, not hugely lucrative, but they got me some face time with a good client at a good time and led to more work. That's really how I've gotten a lot of work for big companies. Sometimes I picked up these little projects, and everybody could then see what a great job I did and say, hey, I want that. I want more of that. So the moral of the story here is, take a good look at what might not look like a great opportunity, because it could turn out to be a career maker for you. It did for my client. It did for Senator Bai. It might be for you. So have a great week. Go out there and be awesome. Oh, and by the way, if you do have like one of these stinkers that you turned into something awesome and you want to figure out how to tell people that, by all means, let me know, because I can rock that. I would love to help you. All right. Have a great week. Thanks for tuning in. Bye.